We haven't used it yet, but we will eventually.
Okay.
Okay.
Marcia, go ahead.
All right. Okay, Dad, I am making a note here that in a week you'll be 85.
Ooh, 85. God.
So, since we're together, I thought it might be a good time to just ask you to reflect a little bit on, your life up to this point. I mean, I know that's a big question, but maybe a way to sort of hone it down is just if you could maybe reflect on what most stands out for you in your lifetime at this point in time.
Ooh, tough question. Something to think of. It's, I guess, the thing that really sticks in my mind about this is all the traveling that we've done, the experiences that we've had, both as family and me, my immediate family with mom and her raising the family and where we lived and the kinds of things we had to do to survive, and then how it evolved into deciding to graduate from high school because nobody by that time had ever graduated from high school. So I was one of kind of the among the Romeros to go to high school and go past the eighth grade because that was the eighth grade was the limit. After eighth grade you could quit if you wanted to, and many did, I guess, because I was told that I was the first one to graduate from high school of the Romero, all the family, the cousins, all the relatives. So anyway, from that, once I went to high school, graduated. It was time to look at what's next. By that time, I had gotten a good taste of the education, what it was all about, and everything. So it seemed like an appropriate time to explore the possibility of maybe going to college. Although I knew of no one who, in my family, who ever even thought of going to college, let alone going to college. So that was kind of another area where I guess I was a trailblazer or something to get something going in the Romero family. And then, of course, World War II broke out, and some of the guys, the uncles and aunts, and all that, got involved in the war in some way. Uncle Max, I remember, was one of the main soldiers, and so on. So that became part of the educational process for me. Although I did not go into the service, but I didn't have to because what happened was I was I had graduated from University of Denver to teach science, and at that time
Oh, I remember this.
Sputnik, the Sputnik program was being flashed all over the world by the Russians. So the United States decided we better get our rears in gear if we're going to keep up with the Russians because they're ahead of us all right now. So that's why they hired science teachers, and that's how I ended up teaching science in junior high school for the Denver public schools. And in the meantime, on the other hand, Elizabeth, my wife, of course, was studying to be a teacher also, and she was in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was, the Denver Public Schools was recruiting teachers to fulfill they had a court-ordered desegregation plan for the Denver Public Schools, so they were hiring all kinds of new teachers to fill some of those spots, and so that's how she got recruited to come to teach in the same school that I taught in. She taught French and English, and so that's how we met, and so on. So that's how that part of the family evolved, because I started traveling. She did too, of course. We went to, University of what was it? Union College in Schenectady, New York was one. University of Wisconsin in Madison. Classes and courses in New Mexico at UNM. So it was just kind of one of those things that just kept evolving
Right.
over time, and it was no set design. It was just kind of like it just happened. It just
Yeah,
happened. I
I mean,
didn't sit down and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
It just happened.
Very organic.
It
Yeah, I
all-
mean, it's interesting what you're saying, because part of what I hear you saying is that because of the choice that you made to, be a good student and graduate from high school and then go on to college. I mean, I think that you were recruited as an athlete.
Yeah.
So that opportunity was
There.
given to you. But
Yeah.
my point is that because of that choice and, one thing leading to another with an education, and that then you had privileges that the other people in your family didn't necessarily have.
And probably didn't want or didn't know what it was
Yeah,
all
they were
about, I
all-
guess.
Right.
Whack.
Yeah.
Except for his younger brother.
Spike, yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting, just to stay here a little bit longer, is, what you said earlier about, I mean, you didn't say it like this, but it's almost like, why me? Like, why did I get to go on to do this and everybody else, stayed in
Yeah.
the Springs or whatever, didn't go into graduate from high school. And I kind of connect to that too. Like when I started spending more time with you and getting to know you more, I realized, oh my God, I'm so much like you, so much like my father. Because part of my growing up with my mom after we were separated is that what she role modeled to me was like, okay, I want to get an education. I don't want to be dependent on my husband, because I saw what was happening to her. And so then, kind of like what you're saying, one thing led to another. I just decided to, I had kids, but I decided to get an education, and then, undergraduate, graduate program. And then, like you're saying, it just led to traveling and other things. So it's interesting to be that person where you go a different direction than your family history.
And that's kind of what in the movie when we were just saw Coco. That's Miguel was going in that direction too. He wanted to go this way, and Grandma said, "No, we're going this way." And
Right.
And the rest of the family was falling in line.
With the matriarch.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah,
It worked out
Yeah.
much better than we thought.
Well, I'm sure you didn't get any pushback about going to college. Everybody was super proud of you. I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I thought so.
Yeah.
It was part of the incentive to keep going, because one thing led to another. I started out teaching, and then pretty soon they said, "Well, maybe you ought to." They're offering scholarships to Union College in New York to and at that time I was being a minority. I was a logical, and so there were, I think, eight teachers from the Denver Public Schools who were invited, and two of us were Hispanic, Emilio and me, and the rest were all, well, there were a couple of blacks, and then there were the other four were Anglos. But anyway, that got me started in the direction of maybe looking at the possibility of administration rather than teaching.
Right.
And again, thinking, well, this is an opportunity to make more money, because at that time salaries were pretty low and all that. But
Did you have any kids at that point aside from me and Rick?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have Julie
yeah,
and
yeah,
Tim?
yeah. And so that was another incentive to try to get a better job, higher paying job, so that we could raise the family and everything. So it just kept evolving, little by little, traveling a lot, visiting things, relatives and too. But it was kind of it wasn't by design. It just kind of happened.
Right.
That's the thing that was interesting, And now that we've been talking about this, I'm turning 85 and thinking back at history, it's given me the opportunity to think about. Before I didn't ever thought about it. It just happened, and life goes on, goes on, goes on. But now I'm starting to think back. Well, what happened here? What happened here? What happened here? How come I didn't go to the war? How come I stayed here? And how did I get involved in the Denver Public Schools administration? And even the university. We went to the University of Oregon to run a program for high school equivalency kids who were dropouts from their schools wherever there was in California, and so that Oregon had a program. And it just happened that the dean of the College of Education at Oregon was the former superintendent of the Denver Public Schools. So when I was looking for a different job, a different assignment, going somewhere doing something different, I contacted Bob Gilbert, who was the former superintendent for the DPS, who knew of me. Because I was part of that 8 people that were selected to go to, and he came from the University of Wisconsin, so that's how DPS got involved in recruiting people from the DPS to go into administration because of him. He said, we need more diversity in the Denver Public Schools because we're under a court order that we needed to get more diversity within the ranks, teaching ranks and administrative ranks. So that's how that all came about. So it was just kind of a situation that evolved again. It just kept happening. And
You said something interesting yesterday when I asked both of you if you had a prediction of how much longer you would live, and you said, "I'm going to live to be 100."
Oh, that's him.
And I know, Elizabeth, you were like, I don't know. But I'm wondering, like, I remember when I was in high school, this was the alternative public school up in Evergreen, Mountain Open High School. And we had this great Japanese teacher, and he did this timeline. I think it's a common subject for high schoolers that are close to coming of age, asking, how old do you think you're going to be? And I wrote down, and my kids remember this, Mom, you said you're going to live to be 107. 107.
really?
But so my point is to ask you, it seems obvious that you're not ready to be done with this life.
No, I don't think so. In fact, I was interested because I've been taking these physicals every 6 months of part of my primary care situation. And every time I go through, they're very complimentary of my, except for my Parkinson's and my diabetes. Other those two, healthy as can be, they say. So I'm glad to hear this. So that's the reason why I think maybe 100 is not,
15 more years.
Yeah, it'll be here for you before you know it. It's hard to believe. I retired from the educational process in 2003. So that's how long it's been that I've been retired.
Wow.
Which time flies.
That's great. Well, I wonder, just to kind of shift a little bit, to ask you to reflect about family. So you had this huge, portion of your adult life really dedicated to education and developing your career, and in tandem with having kids. And so I'm curious. Now you've got grandkids, and so I'm just curious if anything arises as you reflect on, what family's meant to you, and just going forward in your life as a man that wants to live to be 100.
Well, and we've done quite a bit of traveling, despite the fact that I was either in school or in a job that required traveling or whatever. But we seem to instill in the kids the need for education and where it can lead you. Of course, when we split up with your mom, that we went this way and you went this way,
Right.
and we kind of separated until we met at mom's house
Yeah, that's
many
right.
years ago when
Yeah.
you were taking your daughter to college, wasn't
Claremont.
you?
Yeah. Claremont McKenna. Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting coincidence that it happened
So
just like that.
interesting.
We're there in the backyard at grandma's house, at mom's house, and then she walks in with, and I hadn't seen her for I don't know how long. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 26, and I last saw you, I guess, when I was like 5.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
We followed Mike, Rick a little bit in high school because he was an athlete, so we kind of followed that
Right.
on occasion, not by design. We just go to the game to watch it, and he was a big football star, so
Right.
yeah, it was kind of neat that way. But family-wise, it's kind of a fog in the back that you know that we got that I got married, that we had kids, that we moved around a little bit. We weren't. Well, it was kind of interesting to try to raise a family, get educated, pursue a career. I mean, there was quite a bit going on in our lives. She was involved with not her. Susie was involved with the family too, of course, at that time. But it was well until I started thinking about my life in being 85, all the things that have happened over time. It would be, I wouldn't say it would be a good novel to read, but it'd be kind of one person's, my perspective as to why I did what I did or why I didn't do what I did. We
Right.
stayed out of trouble despite the fact that we weren't, doing well. And when Mom was raising us, we lived over there by Shook's Run. We talked about Shook's Run.
Right.
We used to go down, play down in the creek, and play on the railroad tracks, and do. We were just typical mischievous kids.
And your father was more or less absent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was definitely gone by that time. So
Yeah.
we were. She was a bartender at Curly's Bar and Grill in Colorado Springs.
Right.
Remember that? Every now and then when we'd go to the show at it cost 9 cents to go to the movie, and then on the way home we'd stop by Curly's and Mom would serve us a hamburger or something like that. Then we'd go on.
Right.
We kind of, because I was the oldest, I was having to fend for both. Well, Louise was sort of there because she was with Tia Marie and Uncle Andrew. They were sort of helping Mom care for particularly Louise because she was the only girl. There were Manuel and Spike came along later, but that's how we just kind of existed, fending for ourselves. Of course, Colorado Springs was a real small town at that time. That was
Right.
in the early 40s.
Well, you're bringing up something that I think you mentioned earlier, which is, that what you did in your lifetime, especially going into adulthood, wasn't role modeled for you.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think earlier you said, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but something about being a trailblazer. I mean, you just essentially, that would be the hope of what all of us would do as adults, is just really, be awake to how do I want to create my life, now that I'm independent, now that I'm an adult. And not that we necessarily consciously do that like you had reflected on, but yeah, it's really, I guess what I would say, and I relate to this myself too, is that I see you as a very resourceful person that's resourceful in a good way. People can be resourceful in a bad way, and maybe we could say Uncle Manuel was like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll just kind of wrap up a little bit, but before we do that, it's just you know that old saying where behind every great man there's a great woman. And it's, I was only with you as a child for a certain amount of time, but it's hard for me to imagine you doing everything that you did with developing your career and then having these 4 children, that there's no way you could have done it without Elizabeth.
Yeah, for sure.
Yay.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure it was hard.
Yeah.
Well,
All of that.
if you really love your kids, so you just try to keep them, and they're all good kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, maybe unlike Dad, you had a stable, healthy family system, more or less, role modeled for you.
Yeah.
Would that be true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure.
So maybe she was the rock.
Don't give her too much credit.
You're always getting the credit.
I knew that was going to come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just, I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing about that situation is that she came from a completely different Anglo doctor, father situation. She was a twin, all kinds of stuff. And here I was poking along, looking like I don't know what, but anyway, it was like night and day.
Kind of a little bit of a Romeo and
Yeah,
Juliet.
right,
Was.
matching. Yeah, all of a sudden clicking like that. And how long did we go together? 2 years? Couple of years?
I don't know.
Remember, before we finally decided.
Probably a year.
Yeah.
Well, I know from my own experience what you said earlier about it, like the fog of it, and you probably relate to this too, Elizabeth, when you're, starting your family and you're having to work and you're still in school or going back to school and you're moving. I mean, that's intense. That's a lot of stress.
That is.
And so part of you, like, there's probably a lot that you don't remember and maybe never will.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's
You were
right.
just coping.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And everything, but it was one that was pretty much you reached a certain level and that was it.
Levels
I mean,
out.
yeah.
Right.
And he never seemed to be interested at all in going to school, and I didn't pursue it because I was busy trying to survive myself. So with our own kids and family, so
Yeah,
He
good
finally
reflection.
went. He finally went.
Okay, well, should we call that a wrap?
Well, I have a question because it's actually very common that when you come from a low socioeconomic status neighborhood or family or community, that they're not supportive when you try to
move on.
get an education, do something different
Right.
that's not the status quo.
Right.
It's actually much more common that they're not really proud. They're more, or maybe they are secretly, but you might get some resistance because, oh, you think you're better than us. And I've gotten a little bit of that vibe.
From who? Don't want to name names.
Yeah. So do you remember getting any resistance when you did want to keep going, or?
No, not really. I felt that that was my path to success, which I did not see in my dad and my mom raising the family on her own. That it was kind of a situation that I was going to do it. Whether I never did meet any resistance from that. The other thing was that the war was going on at that time, and so a number of the relatives were involved in joining the service or getting drafted. Actually, that was the draft situation there. But they went off to war and got educated there, which was good, I guess, for them. But I went the other way. I went to college and pursued a career that way.
Yeah, you really got lucky going into
Yeah.
science and getting
Yeah.
protection that way.
Right.
What did your mom think about you going to college?
We never really did talk about it much. Really, she was, by that time she had, let's see, where, I'm thinking of the,
Well, she moved after you graduated from high school.
yeah, she moved,
She moved
to
to California.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like a,
Well, at that same
Blur.
time, you were having a child and getting married.
yeah.
What did she say about that? Did she have any? Did she make her opinions known?
Nope, we didn't do much talking about stuff like that. That I remember anyway. If we did, I don't recall it.
You don't remember telling her that you were having a baby?
Nope. It just happened. Yeah. Of course, she was in California, and I was in. Where was I at that time? Denver.
Denver.
Yeah, we were in Denver. So we didn't really talk much. See each other very often.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always feel like Grandma, maybe not, I mean, I didn't know her during that early time, but when we reconnected and I spent time with her, she just always seemed super proud of you, and which I could imagine sort of put you in a kind of a bit of a bind with your siblings and maybe even Grandpa Reuben, where you got a lot of positive attention. Like, I don't know if you ever picked up on any of that.
No.
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
The object of that attention isn't usually aware of that. It's the other siblings that are aware of it, in my experience.
Well, it was probably the norm for you as the oldest boy that was
Yeah.
successful
Yeah.
to, get praised and acknowledged, listened to, seen for your accomplishments. Yeah.
Well, that's my story, and I'm gonna stick to it.
Okay, 100 years we'll
I
be
was
back.
waiting
In
for
15
that.
years we'll be back with the wrap.
Do you remember when you all first got married, how did you handle, or what did you remember anything coming up because you grew up in such different?
We didn't really.
Because I've
Think of that.
always wondered about that, because you grew up in completely different
Environments. Yeah, for sure.
And knowing that it's very difficult to move in with somebody, period.
Wasn't for us.
Well, the thing that I remember is growing up at at my age at that time was, I was really excited about the fact that I was marrying into a situation that was different from what I grew up in, and I liked it. It offered me some opportunities that I probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So that was what I was glad about. So that helped the transition of getting married and starting to have a family and everything, that I was able to look forward to success and stuff to be proud of and happy about, and not be upset about it or anything like that.
Probably reinforced your ambition.
Oh, probably, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and maybe just gave you some stability
And
that you really
stability.
hadn't had.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
Because if you're off trailblazing and doing all that, there has to be somebody at home who's taking care of the kids and
Yeah.
cleaning the house and doing the cooking and feeding you and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
We didn't have too much stuff too many times that you did that.
And did you feel accepted into her family?
Yeah, I
Other
really
than
did.
with a few exceptions?
Yeah, really wasn't bad at all. Of course, I was pretty sociable, so I was able to hobnob with relatives and stuff as needed to be.
Playing your cards right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you learn how to play golf from Grandpa Reuben? I thought, or did you not know how to play golf when they started wanting you to come play golf with the Bowens?
Don't remember that. I
Well-
was just a natural athlete, so playing golf was just another.
Yeah. Because I don't think Grandma didn't get with Grandpa Reuben until actually around that same time.
Yeah.
So probably not. Yeah.
But it was kind of a way, playing golf with the Bowens was kind of a way to get acquainted and
Bond,
get to know each other and so on like that. So it's kind of a natural thing to do, just to play get on the golf course and go have fun and enjoy life. Of course, her dad, who was the doctor, had several country clubs that he was a member of, so when we wanted to play, there was no problem getting on the golf course, because he had 4 or 5 towns that had golf courses that he was a member at, so we would go play.
Yeah, I was thinking they didn't kick you out, but I guess it's because you were
Of
with.
the-
You were
Dr.
married
Bowen.
in
That's
the
right.
family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Especially, I love thinking about Grandpa Reuben at your wedding in Alexis.
Mm.
There's still no diversity in Alexis even now. So.
He was the only relative from Dad's family at the wedding?
Well, Grandma was there, and Uncle Spike.
Okay.
Yeah, Spike, and what was his name? The guy that had the Corvette?
Yeah, there was some family friend of theirs who was he living in Denver?
Yeah, he was living in Denver.
But he happened to be going. Was he going to the wedding, or
I don't know what the
or
connection
he was
was,
happened to be going
but
anyways?
he was going back to Denver, and Spike needed a ride back to Denver, so he invited him to come along, so off they went. What was his name? Gosh.
What was his name? We went out on his boat on Lake Michigan
Yeah,
when Michael lived there.
yeah.
Have to ask Uncle Spike next time we talk to him.
I want to say it was not Dave Rupp. That was your other friend.
Yeah.
We'll text Michael. Anyways, yeah, Uncle Spike was there. But that was it.
That's it.
He has fond memories of Alexis. That was quite a culture shock.
I guess.
I think everybody went to, if everybody went to, any of the people that went to Alexis looked like, really? But then there are a bunch of them that really got to that stage that they didn't care. What if people didn't like what they were doing, then that's their.
Well, your family was prominent in the town, so that if you were going to get involved with somebody that was not part of that culture, they would eventually get around to accepting it once they got to know who you were or what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, by that time you were at the University of Oregon.
Yep.
University of Oklahoma,
Yeah.
I mean. So you weren't even around actually for a while. Off getting educated.
Well, and Aunt Barb went off to the Acoma
Yeah, that's right. She did.
reservation.
Yeah.
So you both kind of. Although, apparently, when Aunt Barb had a boyfriend there, and they wanted to get married, your dad told her no.
I don't believe that at all. I do not believe that at all. My dad would say, be careful what you're doing, but if it's what you want, you do it. And he did, and he got it done.
However, they never got married.
No, they didn't.
In
think
fact,
there are
they
a lot
split.
of
They
people-
split up after that, I think, as I recall. I don't remember the time frame, but it didn't last long after they were talking maybe possibility of getting married. Was he one of the teachers at the reservation? Her boyfriend? I don't remember who he was.
I don't think so.
We only met him a couple of times when we went down to visit her.
But he was
Native.
Acoma, or
Yeah, probably Acaba.
yeah. So I wonder if he put up a similar fight with you, and you just said no, I don't care.
No. He just said very nicely, I would like to get married to you, but you just wouldn't come into my what my family is doing. So okay. And
Okay.
we were lucky. We had everything he did and we did. We were all the same things. That we had a good time.
Any other questions, Marcia?
No, it's great.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I look forward to the next 15 years.
Yes, for sure. For sure. If not longer.
Yeah, your Tio Elias lived to 105.
Yeah, 105 or 107, something like that.